Hello everybody and welcome to Should You Play Arkham Horror, an elevator pitch review from me, Justin of Playing Board Games, and Daniel from Quick Learner. This video is here for people who might be just interested in dipping their toes into Arkham and seeing what this game is all about. Maybe they heard about it and they wanted to be like, is this game for me? Is kind of like how we're framing this. We're going to give you a quick elevator pitch. We're going to give you some pros. We're going to give you some cons. And we're going to kind of just help you, guide you to see if this game is for you. A bit of context for who we are. We are both content creators who focus on Arkham Horror, the card game, and we have made a lot of content. We've played this game for a very long time. So while we are a little bit biased because we do like this game, we are going to try to give you kind of the best top-down interpretation on if this game is for you. So with all that said, all that behind us, Daniel, I'm going to throw this to you for you to give your first elevator pitch. We're not going to go deeper. We're not going to expand on these elevator pitches. We're just going to give our pitch and then we're going to move on to the pros to get this going. So I'll throw it to you.
I'm looking forward to this. I actually do this kind of all the time. I talk to people about the game. So
yes, same here.
Yeah, it doesn't always work, but let's try it this time. So, what I'd like to say about the game is that Arkham Horror, the card game, is a co-op game where you take on a character who's an investigator in the game and your own customized deck along a series of scenarios. It's a whole campaign and adventure to uncover mysterious happenings in Arkham, Massachusetts. For me, this has become a lifestyle game into which I've sunk hundreds of hours, probably a lot more than that, and quite a few dollars. And I keep coming back because despite all of the experience I've had with the game, there's always a new puzzle to solve with different combinations of investigators, player cards, scenarios, and just random stuff that happens with the board state. There's always a big, unexpected moment around the corner.
Hell yeah. As for mine, Arkham Horror, the card game, puts you in the shoes of an investigator going face-to-face with unfathomable cosmic horrors. This is a cooperative-based game focusing on emergent narratives, leveling up your character, and overcoming impossible odds over the course of a campaign. Whether you play solo or with other players, Arkham constantly asks you to make tough decisions, weighing your resources carefully, but the game rewards you with an incredibly deep pool of player expression and character customization, along with countless memorable moments defined by the game's stories and your own actions as you play it. So, we have your attention. Thank you for it's a long elevator ride, by the way. We got 25 stories until we're at the halfway point. So we're going to talk about and dive a little bit deeper about what hooks us into Arkham Horror, the card game. So, these are the three kind of top-down pros that we're going to talk about. So, we'll kind of just dive into each of them. So, Daniel, I'll throw this one to you here for replayability first.
I've been thinking about this a lot. I've have over 6 years in the game. You have a lot longer, but even though we spend so much time talking about the game, playing the game, there's just something new to discover every time. And I told you this, we chat about the game, even just not recording videos. Maybe a week or two ago, I said, man, I saw something I'd never seen before in the game. Something that seemed so simple happen, and I was just blown away by that. And if you like that about a game, if that you're not just playing the same game over and over again, this game is for you. I think you have a lot of control over making new investigators, new decks, new scenarios to put them in, but then the game has a lot of control over what happens too. So even if you have your best laid plans, they might not work out the way you hope, and you have to adapt on that, and that's really cool. But even just weird things happen, you're like, well, that's really funny, and that speaks to, I think, a very strong foundation and bones of the game to allow that to happen.
I think that last line kind of covers exactly what I really enjoy about Arkham Horror is the bones and the foundation are really good. I'm a big co-op board game player. My favorite games in the board game world are cooperative, and the best ones have the best bones, which have a really solid structure that is able to be expanded on with just small little tweaks that make the replayability really fun. If you're a big fan of Spirit Island, Arkham Horror is going to scratch a very similar itch. Spirit Island, it threatens you in different ways, and then it asks how are you going to solve the threat that just showed up. And Arkham Horror is very similar, and I think it is actually like the master of that kind of domain, where each round is just how do I solve this puzzle most efficiently, and also how can I make up or stay ahead depending on how I solve the puzzle in the rounds previous. So it kind of like has like an echo effect that carries over throughout the game, and I think that replayability is very good from the game side, and we're not even talking about the player side, which we're going to be talking about later on this list. What about the big moments? What about for that one?
Yeah, one thing that you mentioned in your elevator pitch was just the emergent narrative that comes out of this game, which really means that instead of there being a script that you have to follow based on, the writers of the game, the designers of the game wrote something for the game to happen. This is more interesting, I think. There is a story. There's always a story every scenario, but it's more interesting to see actually what happens with your own investigators, with your own deck that you couldn't have expected. And I like at the end of the scenario to look back on those things and say, wow, that was really funny or really interesting, or this was the cool puzzle we had to solve, and doing a little bit of post-game wrap, I suppose, on it to say, yeah, wow, that was a big moment that we were able to overcome, and then the rest of the game afterwards felt a little bit more breezy. Or maybe it happened really early and you were like, wow, we had nothing, and then we were just scrapping by the rest of the way, and it actually worked out all right. All that I think is just a strong part of the game that every scenario has that, I think. At least the best scenarios have it maybe more often beyond the scripted moments.
Yeah. So when we talk about this, as we mentioned this, and we'll kind of like poke at this a little bit more specifically here, because we're not going to get in too deep. We're kind of just, again, surface level on this video here. It's a short elevator ride. We have it's a campaign-based game, and you play over a number of scenarios, and each scenario kind of has like a little hook that is like attempting to make this scenario uniquely this scenario. While the base of the game is the same, they're trying to just like iterate on these mechanics to make it new and exciting each time you play. And there's a lot of big moments that exist here, but Daniel is 100% right that there's just a lot of moments that even happen depending on how you solved a problem, or maybe how a problem became impossible to solve. There was like a moment when Daniel and I were playing, and there was an enemy that normally would be very easy to defeat. We've defeated that guy hundreds of times. But for some reason, in that one scenario, that enemy was just impossible for us to conquer, and it led to a very memorable moment that we carry today. And that was on our probably like 50th time playing that campaign. So again,
Yeah.
the bones are very good, but everything around it, and from the replayability to just even the story beats or even the emergent narrative, there's a lot to discover within Arkham Horror.
Yeah, that was exactly the example I was going to bring up. We both are on the same page on that. It's like that just stands out, and that's
Yep.
so amazing from the game. I had a similar thing happen playing over the weekend in Pat the Carcosa campaign that I played tons of times, and there was a little bit of a moment of like, yeah, we all planned for an enemy to move into a location, and we're going to move into that location, but we didn't know what that location was, and we flip it over and we're like, just kidding, we're going to go the other direction. This was a mistake. So those sorts of things are just, they're so much fun to experience.
Yeah, and if you put yourself, if you're a very narrative gameplay like player, or you really try to immerse yourself in the RPG aspects, and I've played with a few of these players where they kind of like play the character. There's a lot of that to also discover. It's a very like numbers oriented, like I just want to play the game, but there's also a lot of like role play aspect involved, which is I think is really cool. So what about this last point? Playstyle guides deck building and vice versa.
Yeah, I actually think that is a really good segue to this, that there's a lot of customizability on the player end, and you kind of decide on what kind of player you want to be. Are you more thematic and RPG like in that way? Are you going to put cards in your deck that you think make a lot of sense with your investigator? Or are you going to put cards in the deck that make sense for you as a type of player? And I think this works both ways. Sometimes you learn a lot about what kind of player I am, what kind of play styles does this game have to offer, and then you start playing that way and you learn something new about deck building. Or the other way around, you learn something about deck building and then you decide, hey, this other new investigator seems like they'd be a lot of fun to try this idea in. And man, there's so many investigators in the game, and they will keep printing more, so there's always something new to try out next time.
Yeah, the big replayability for me in this game is the number of player cards and the investigators and the expression that I can have as a player to try and make the best deck possible, or in some cases, I've played with you and Brand, another player on this channel, who tries to make the wildest deck possible. Can I explore this crazy thing that is this even possible? Can I just get my numbers as big as I can? There's a lot of different avenues to explore, and a lot of, again, the player expression that I think really makes this game unique, and to me is the thing that really hooks me. So when I first played this game, the big thing was seeing the story over the scenario, of just like how that story was able to tell itself. But the thing that made me stay was the amount of different investigators and even decks for individual investigators that I could bring to these campaigns and have a different experience every time I play it.
Yeah, there's so many versions of the different investigators, but I think beyond that, even just the scenarios themselves, how your strategy for playing the scenario changes considerably. There's a new investigator, Miguel de la Cruz, who really likes traps, and these are events that you attach to different locations, and things happen when enemies or investigators go in and out of these locations. And it's just a quite different way to think about even some old favorite scenarios. Like, how can I take advantage of this in a new way that I never thought about? Which is wild to think about a game that's been around so long that they can change the meta sometimes, overall, but even just for your particular investigator choice. Just lets you see the design perhaps of the scenario in a different way.
Yep. All right. Well, while we both love Arkham Horror, there are some aspects we need to mention before we close out this video. And as I said, these are kind of our cons of Arkham Horror. Again, these are very top-down. Someone watching this who is probably also really enfranchised in Arkham might have some kind of more like what I would call like nitpicky points or personal things. This is not those. We're not going to be talking about that kind of stuff. These are the specific, I think, big, if you're just starting out, the top-down things you need to be aware of if you are interested in jumping into Arkham Horror, the card game. The first one is hitting a player card pool that allows deeper customization may take a bigger buy-in than you deem reasonable. So right now, available to you as a new player at the time that we're recording this video, is a new core set and some Investigator starter decks. The Investigator starter decks being here early do a good job of giving you cards to make your pool something you can explore a little bit more. And when I say pool, I mean your card pool of like for your player cards to build your decks. But it still is very small to what we at this point who've been playing for as long as we have are used to. And this was a thing that when I first started playing back when the game just came out, it was harder to find the customization to really go deep. So that's something that you as a player might have a little stopping point with, because do you want to have the baggage of knowing that when you buy the core set, it's very likely that you're going to want or going to need to buy more in order to enhance that core set for player cards. And that's the thing that you as a consumer will need to come to terms with and like decide for yourself. Is it worth it? And the core set is a good experience that you can play, you can build decks with, you get 3 scenarios to play it, but it's one of those things where this is kind of like, as you said, this is a lifestyle game. There are kind of expectations that come with it, that you're in it for more. And they're making it easier to continue with this, with some of their changes to their product line, but there still is a lot of expectations that you're going to have to buy more from the player cards, and then also we're going to be talking about, I mean, we can kind of lump this together with the next point, where additional campaigns or scenarios are another purchase that you need to be aware of when jumping into Arkham. There are a lot of purchases that you need to do in order to keep expanding your game, but every piece that you add does provide more replayability, more options, more experience, so you're ultimately getting more out of this game. And so for some context as well, I bought the Dunwich Legacy probably like 8 years ago at this point. I spent 60 Canadian dollars on it, and I've probably played that campaign 40 times. So it's like one of those things where if the game hooks you and you're interested, it is worth the money, but you are the only person who can decide that, is that enough for me to take the first leap, or do I want to maybe find someone else who has the game first before I dive in? And that's not a question that we can answer here, but we're just giving you some context to go with this.
It's true. The value for any of these products is through the roof if you play the game a lot.
Hmm.
And we do. We're crazy people, but I think there's still a threshold of like this is worth your time and money. I don't know what that is, at least for the player cards. They did give us a lot of player cards, which is nice. Um, Probably the threshold where you get a lot of different customization is about three different player card expansions, I think. So we're gonna get that eventually. We don't have that right now, but I think there's enough for you to play a couple different versions of most of the investigators. But we also need that additional campaign. I don't think people are gonna want to play the three scenarios of the core over and over again with 10 investigators. But once we start getting some other campaigns, it'll start to open up even more, and you'll have fun trying these guys all out. But even just for your third point here, what we didn't bring up yet, it's a big money commitment. It's a big time commitment. And if you're playing just solo, I think you can manage this. But if you're playing with a group, with your family, etc., it is something that it might be a while before you go through all the campaigns, all the different player cards and whatnot. So a lot of people buy stuff up front without playing everything because they know they'll get to it eventually. If you have the resources to do that, sure. But the game, I think, is better when you play it, and it's not always easy to get at the table. It's a
Yeah.
long game, and with the shorter campaigns that are coming out, it might be easier to finish these sorts of things, but it's not easy to convince everyone to be on the same schedule as you. I have a group that we've been playing like the same campaign for last 5 months or so, and for me, that is slow. For a lot of people, that's totally normal, and I think that's okay.
Yeah. A big thing, too, to kind of also expand on the last point there is that this is not like a casual game. This is a complex game. The rules are hard to manage sometimes. I mean, I don't even know all the rules. That's something that I'm still learning every time I play, where I'm like, how does this work? So it's like one of those games that you can't just bring it to a game night and be like, this is what we're playing tonight. There is sort of kind of like a buy-in that you need to do. You need to go with it. But again, if you've played Spirit Island with your game group, this is a complexity that you can hit. If you've played Gloomhaven with your game group, this is another complexity that you can hit. And those two are, I think, very similar. So ultimately, if you enjoy those kind of games and you're okay with the buy-in that comes with it, Arkham Horror might be worth checking out. And with that,
yeah, I say just as a co-op game too, while it's a complex game and it's not a casual one, there is a certain amount of wiggle room where for your group, it might just be important to have fun and to not sweat some of the small things. And for that, it's great because there's a lot of, maybe we could say, places where you'll have to make some of your own decisions about what should or shouldn't happen. And that's fine for this kind of game.
yeah. And with that, we are hitting the ground floor. The elevator ride is over, and it was a bit of a longer elevator ride, but hopefully you found it informative, and maybe it helped give you some insight on if this game is for you. Anything you want to say before we let them the doors open? Because I'm just holding the doors close button right now until we're ready. All right, in that case, the doors are open. You can now leave. Thank you so much for watching. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me for this video and sharing your insight. If you want to support the Playing Board Games channel, you can do so by liking, commenting, subscribing, or you can go above and beyond and join the Patreon with all these awesome names that we have over here. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. Have a good one, and as always, a GG's.